We start everything off with what we call a master budget. It is basically a big budget that has lots of different components in it. It's got an operating budget in it. It's got a financial budget in it. And when I do a budget, I compare it each year from the previous budget because I always look to see what did I budget for last year? What am I budgeting for this year? In real financial management, you should be running your own personal financial budget also so that you know exactly how much money you're making, how much you're spending where. So here is an example of the different budgets. So under the operating budget, notice that there are multiple budgets. So it always starts with sales. Everything begins with sales. So under the operating budget, I have sales, I have cost of goods sold budget, production budget, direct materials budget, direct labor budget, factory overhead, and then a selling and admin budget. And these make up the income statement. I'll also have a budgeted income statement. The cash budget and the capital expenditures budget will make up the budgeted balance sheet. Capital expenditures is when you set aside money to purchase large pieces of equipment or large expenditures. So if you can see, there's multiple budgets in the master budget. You're going to count all of these plus the financial statements over here. So here's kind of an overview or a flow chart of how things start. We always start with the sales budget. And we're going to start with the sales budget, and whatever we sell, down here we're going to have a selling and admin expenses because these expenses will be a percent of our sales. So when I'm doing the selling and admin expenses, they're going to be a percent of whatever my sales is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze what I plan on selling, and how will I know that? I'll be based upon last year's information. Then I'm going to do a production budget. If I know how much I'm going to sell, then I know how many pieces I need to make. And this makes the assumption that we will sell everything we make. In real life, you know that is not accurate information. When I know my production budget, so when I know how many pieces I need to make, then I'll know how much direct material I'll need, and I'll do that budget. I know how much my direct labor will cost me, and I'll know my factory overhead. Once I know these three things, then I know what is the cost of the goods sold, which helps me lead to the budget income statement. So on this one, on this video, we're going to cover sales budget, production budget, DM, DL, and factory overhead. And then I'll stop and move forward. So the sales budget is where everything begins. And you always look at prior year sales. That's your starting point. You might have to change some things. Quantities might be changed. Other things might be changed for whatever reason. But we're going to examine Elite Accessories. And they make wallets and handbags that sell in two different regions, East and West. And here are their budgeted sales for this year. So they want to make 287,000 wallets for this region, 241,000 for this region, and they're going to sell them at $12 each. These are my selling prices. Handbags, these are the quantities, and this is the unit selling price. So this is all you need to make a sales budget. But you need the total numbers here in order to move forward on next budgets. So here's an example of my sales budget. I'm combining my wallets for both regions and my handbags, my selling price. So my total sales for just wallets is going to be this number. My total sales for handbags are this. Here's my total revenue for sales. So here's my quantity. I'm going to make 528 wallets. I'm going to make 528,000 wallets, 280,000 handbags. So that's the quantity that I'll use as I go into the production budget. This is just my total revenue. So the next formula I'm going to show you is something you're going to have to memorize. This right here, very, very important. Okay, you know what? Let me highlight that with my pen. This is extremely important. Write it down. I'm going to start with how many units I plan on selling, plus how much I want left at the end. Hold on a second. Let me get my laser back on here. plus what I want left over, because I always want to have some inventory left on my shelf at the end. So how many units I need to sell plus the quantity I want left on the shelf minus what I already have made will tell me how many units I have to actually produce. This is extremely important. I cannot tell you enough about this. So given this information, here's what we have next. Here's my beginning inventory for these products. Here's what I want left on my shelf at the end of the year. And so a production budget will say, okay, how many wallets and how many handbags will I need to make? So we're going to take a look at that. So here we go. Here's the quantity on each that I expect to sell, plus how much I want on the shelf at the end of the year. Add them together, minus what I already have, tells me here's what I need to produce. So here's my formula again, the one I told you was really important. We're going to use this same formula when we get to direct materials budget, because I'm going to have to buy different material to make these products. So I'm going to need to know how many units of material will I need, plus how much material I want left over, add them together, subtract the material I have on the shelf, will tell me how much I need to buy. So right now, even though I'm going to sell 528,000 wallets, I only need to make 520,000. Here I only need to make 292,000. So far, it's easy. Now we're moving to direct materials budget. This is where we're going to break it down. Okay, this will tell me how much material I need to buy to support that production of what I have on my budget. So here's my quantity, my budgeted production volume, that's how many I need to make, times my direct material quantity expected per unit. Now I'm making handbags and wallets, and so I'm going to need leather and I'm going to need lining. And each wallet will take so much of each material. So here's the same formula I told you that was extremely important. Here it is. How much I need for production plus what I want left on the end of the shelf. Add them together minus what I already have tells me how much I need to purchase. And when I know how much I need to purchase and I know how much it costs, it'll tell me what's the cost of my materials purchase when I multiply it. Hope I'm not moving too fast for you guys, okay? So here we go. So the wallet requires leather and lining for both of them. And here's the quantity per wallet. So 0.30 square yards for every wallet for leather. And over here I need 1.25 square yards per unit. And here's the lining I need. So here is my beginning inventory. Here is what I want to have on the shelf at the end. And here's what I'm going to pay per square yard. So I'm going to put together a direct materials purchase budget, which will tell me exactly how much leather I need to buy and what will be the cost of it, and how much lining I need to buy and what will be the cost of it. And it looks like this. So here's my two materials. Here's how much I need for production. And notice I need 156,000 square yards. So look down here, because I'm going to make 520,000 units of wallets, and they each require 0.30 square yards. So that's how I got my number. That's just for leather. That's just for wallets. Here's handbags, the same thing down here. So my total inventory for leather alone I need is 541,000. Minus what I already have will tell me I only really need to buy 523,000, and I know that it cost me $450 per square yard, so I know this is my cost of my leather for direct materials for the whole year. Same thing with lining. Down here I'm going to make 520,000 wallets. They require 0.10 square yard. This is how many square yards I need. And here's my handbags down here. So total is 210,000 minus what I have already on the shelf. Here's what I'm going to buy. Here's what it's going to cost me. This is my total direct materials cost. Okay, That's still pretty easy. Actually, all of my production budgeting is fairly easy. So next we're going to look at direct labor. So we're going to break it the same way, instead of how much per unit, but how much labor it takes to do certain things. So my direct labor cost is going to be a little bit different. Basically, I'm going to look at how many, okay, let's start this over again. How many hours I'm expected per unit to make them, and how many I'm going to make. When I know that total budgeted direct labor hours times my hourly rate will tell me what my labor costs are going to be. Let's move to the example. So I have two different departments. I have a cutting department and I have a sewing department. So here's how much each unit requires: 0.10, 0.25, just to cut and sew a wallet, and these over here. And these are my hourly rates for labor. Now all I need to know is I need to know how many units I'm making, which goes back to my sales or my production budget. So here we are. We're going to start here with cutting and sewing. Down here in note A, I'm going to make 520,000 units, and for cutting it's 10 cents per unit, so it's going to take me this many hours. Sewing will take me this many hours, so I'm putting these numbers here. So my total labor hours for cutting, we did the same thing with the handbag. My total labor hours for cutting are 95,800 hours times my hourly rate. So here's what it's going to cost me for direct labor for the cutting department alone, the sewing department alone, and finally my total direct labor cost. So you see, by just setting that sales budget, I know everything else that's going to happen. And by the way, guys, budgeting like this is in a perfect world. In reality, so many things may change where you have to actually go back and change some of the budgeting. But still, what we're going to be doing as we go forward is we're going to be comparing what actually happened to what actually budget. That's in future chapters. Actually, that's in the next chapter. So for this one, this is just straight budgeting. Okay, so we've got direct materials covered, we've got direct labor covered. So let's move on to factory overhead, the easiest there is. Okay, because it's just a list of everything. Any monies I'm going to spend in factory overhead is just a list. Here's my factory overhead cost budget. That's it. I know, don't forget my indirect wages, that's my indirect labor, my indirect materials, depreciation, my maintenance, my insurance. These are all my total factory overhead costs. So now I know my direct materials, my direct labor, my factory overhead costs. So we're able to at least get the sales budget, the production budget, and all the three components of the production budgets finished with this video. Next, we're going to move to cost of goods sold budget on the next video.